Hey everybody, welcome to Basically Sci-Fi, the short story writing show featuring two stories you can basically call sci-fi. My name's Todd.
And I'm Jared.
Hey Jared. So, this week we decided that rather than talking about movies that we'd seen and books we've read and family members we've talked to, we were actually going to talk about writing.
Yeah, seems like a thing to do.
Seems like a thing. I keep putting in the key terms, writing workshop, because this is totally a place where people can learn how to write goodly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Extra goodly.
Extra goodly. I got a big, good vocabulary.
I don't.
So, when you're writing a story, do you start with an outline, or, I mean, obviously we have our prompts that we start with, and then from there, I'm interested in yours because you come up with basically new stories basically every time for Basically Sci-Fi. So, where do you go? Where do you come from?
I mean, isn't that a song?
Yeah.
It depends. Usually I come up with a basic idea for, the interaction with the prompt, immediately, and then kind of file that away as, I took both of the prompts, and I'm like, well, these are kind of pretty good escape routes. Mm-hmm. So that's essentially where I went with time travel and Shuttlecraft.
Yeah, so then did that... I mean, we'll get to the story later, but that kind of means, you need to have a problem and a unwinnable situation. So was that, factored into your thinking?
Yeah, it definitely... I knew... From there, I kind of developed an ending to the story.
Yeah.
In my head, and, knew how it was gonna pan out. Then I just needed, why are these characters doing this?
Yeah.
And from there, I usually don't do an outline. I did the first couple of episodes just to, get things straight in my head. But
really?
After that, I quickly came to realize that I would use, the first little chunk of the outline and then discard the rest. So it was kind of just a waste of time.
Not really. I mean, I do kind of the same thing. But I thought it was interesting that you were saying that basically you have your ending, you have your goal in mind. And so your story, when you're writing is trying to get you to that ending.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
For most of them. There are others that have taken form in different ways.
Yeah.
Pretty much the last few episodes I've written, it was all oh, this is a funny way to end something.
Yeah.
So I'll build up to that. And part of that goes back to I was having issues with finishing stories, and I think I'm gonna have that with the one I'm currently writing, because I'm doing it completely differently again. But
right.
Coming to the end, and it was already too long a story, so I just was wrapping them up too quickly. And
oh my god. My stories were long too, recently. I told you I switched to writing my stories on my tablet, and I switched from a notebook, and for the first couple episodes, I had it down, if I write this many pages in my notebook, whatever size it was, right?
Yeah,
then that would equate to a 15 or 20-minute story. Whereas writing on my tablet, I had no perspective, right? No page breaks, nothing to go with. I finally found the word count function. And so this week's story I noticed was about, I forget, either 75% or half of what the word count from my last couple stories was. So I'm like, this'll be good. This is perfect.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's now how I can gauge that. That should have been pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But
so
for me, I've been writing for a pretty long time, and when I was writing before, I was kind of like you. I had, like, the beats in my head, like, you know, where should I be, especially with the writing screenplays, like, where should I be after 20 minutes, where should I be after 40? So I had, like, scenes in my head that I wanted to connect to, and then in my writing was just getting from scene to scene. And so I did that kind of for my first story for this show. Like, I had a complete outline and I followed it to the letter. Like, even in my notes it says, like, and then he steps on the Rat Man's tail and the Rat Man drops his sword. Like, I had every detail down.
Damn.
After that, I switched it up a lot. Like, I did a lot more, like, journey writing, like you, like, point A, point B, and then just go. And so for my, I think it was my third story, that one really got off track from my notes that I took before writing. That one was completely different. The notes were useless, except to show me, you know, where the idea started from and where it ended up. Like, that was still kind of useful, right? Because obviously you have one thing in your mind when you start, and it doesn't always end that way. And so this week, I tried something really different. Different from anything not completely different from anything I've ever done before, but kind of cheating, I guess. So, have you heard of this little show called Rick and Morty?
Yes, I have heard of Rick and Morty. Though
I
haven't.
Really?
I don't think I've ever seen a full episode of it.
Oh, God. Well, alright, I'll cut that. Anyway, so the writer, creator, voice actor guy does everything. Yeah. He created his own version of the hero's story. You know, like the basic template you have for writing, for story writing.
Yeah.
And so what I did for this week's story was I took his template just to try it out, and I plotted all the beats that he had in his version of the hero's story, and I used that to write this one, and I think it turned out pretty well. So, nice. I mean, we'll see what happens. Yeah. Originally, I wanted to have, like, 2 concurrent plots happening at the same time that would weave together in the end. Yeah. And so that was, like, the original idea when I went into this story. It didn't pan out. Didn't happen. This is my first time, like, using that kind of model. How about you? Like, do you have any inspiration in writing, or, like, something that you hope to...
I mean, I think I've mentioned this before, but I've read a lot of Douglas Adams and Terry Pratchett, that kind of, like, silly sci-fi and fantasy.
Right.
Short story writing. That's kind of what I aim for, but not as far as, like, breaking down their writing styles completely and looking at how they wrote their stories.
No, this is, I mean, I didn't do it on my own. Like, I found a copy of his wheel online.
I haven't looked into that at all,
But I've always said, I don't know if I only said it to you or if I said it on this podcast before. Whenever I hear one of your stories, it reminds me of Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah. Yeah, no, those are definitely books that I've read probably too many times.
And that's a good thing. So like I said, this week I used that model that I found from Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
And also my story's a little bit shorter than usual, but I think that's for the best.
Yeah.
So I think what we should do now is read our stories, and then we can talk about the writing process a little bit more after we've heard them. You think I'm going to ask you if you want to go first?
I assume you are.
But I'm not.
All right.
I'm not going to ask, because we need to have some kind of set format to this show. People are expecting me to go first.
Yeah. Wonder where you got that idea from.
From listening to this podcast.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough.
All right. This week's story is called That Slapping Sound is the Sound of Inevitability.
Alright.
Alright. On a nameless planet, completely devoid of life, Iggy, 88, the former right-hand man of the Dark Lord Edith, approached a small, unsuspicious structure. A sign hanging next to the door read, Completely Normal Cab Company Headquarters. Ass, Iggy, 88, cursed. Fuck, he cursed again. He then took out his wallet. There was no money in it, but there were various slips of paper inside with numbers written on them, which sounds like money, but actually they were passcodes to various email accounts and locks that Iggy couldn't be bothered to remember. If he entered the wrong passcode again, he would be vaporized by the laser security system. He decided to knock on the door instead. Iggy, 88, had finally returned to his old cab agency. It had been 3 years since he left to go pick up Dark Lord Edith on the planet Spartine. The code had probably been changed while he was in Edith's service. One of those eye-slit things opened in the door, and a pair of glowing red eyes appeared. Who dares approach the completely normal cab company headquarters? Iggy, 88, returning after completion of the Spartine job. What's the passcode? Either I forgot it, or you guys changed it. Okay. Can you tell me specifically what business you have here? No? Okay, good. Get in. After a loud clank, the security door opened. Iggy peered into the darkness, but there was no one to be seen. A voice pierced the darkness. That was dumb. A voice pierced the darkness. Welcome home, 88. Iggy activated his night vision retinas and entered. After walking halfway down a long, dark flight of stairs, Iggy grew impatient. Can you guys deactivate the damn security hologram? I swear you guys should be better prepared for my return. The voice in the darkness answered again. But you've never been here, 88. I don't need a lecture on the logistics of time travel. Just do it. Suddenly, the dark staircase Iggy had been walking on disappeared, and Iggy was in a room of pure white, surrounded by 3 well-dressed men wearing dark suits and red sunglasses that they probably bought from Hot Topic. Iggy cleared his throat, and adopted a German accent for some reason. I have dispatched of Bruce Coolidge, otherwise known as the Dark Lord Edith, thereby completing my contract, whatever that was. The 3 men spoke in unison. It was the understanding of this council that the Dark Lord was not stopped, and committed numerous atrocities before finally meeting his end on Meteoria 7. This is true, mein chefs. Why did you not stop him earlier? As I'm sure you are well aware, since we have changed the future, I am no longer aware of what exactly has changed. Since the future is now the future and no longer the past. Obviously.
Yeah.
This council can't imagine what the future must have been like if this is the best possible result. After 3 long years of war, how many more would have been lost? Good thing the League of Extraordinary Time-Traveling Assassins who pose as taxi drivers is here to make sure we never know. As his former right-hand man, might you be able to tell this council what the dark crystals are and why he was seeking them? I assume he made them up. The Lord was crazy. With the permission of this council, I would like to pass word of Edith's demise on to the Galactic Society of Friends, so that they may spread the good news of the Space War's end. It is not the place of the League of Extraordinary Time-Traveling Assassins who pose as taxi drivers to make our work known. We will wait, as we always have, in the shadows, watching for the next threat, so that we may stop it. Iggy became slightly flustered and dropped his accent. But Meteoria doesn't have access to space travel or telecommunications yet. The Society has given supreme power to a crazy squid man. If we don't tell them now, then we will just have a new Dark Lord rise out from the Society of Friends. The three men in suits nodded. If that is the will of the universe, then we cannot interfere. We act only in case of universal destruction. Petty tyrants are beneath our powers. Iggy thought about the friends he had made since his time with Edith. Ary, Nova, that douchey corpse who listened to music without headphones back in the lobby. Okay, well, if we're done here, I'm just gonna go then. Don't worry, I'm not going to the Galactic Society to tell them anything. The three men in suits nodded again. You better not, they said in unison. I won't, Iggy promised. Iggy immediately stole one of the cabs sitting outside the League headquarters and made his way to the Blackout Hole Space Tavern. He approached the barkeep and slammed a fistful of space cash on the bar. Give me one of your best human drinks. The barkeep was cleaning a glass, because that's what barkeeps do in movies. We don't have human drinks here. Just wine. Sure, give me a wine. We don't take kindly to your types around here. What type would that be? Androids. And what makes you think I'm an android? The barkeep leaned in and winked with a mechanical whir. 'Cause I'm an android, too. Look, I don't have time for your weird jokes. I'm looking for a shirtless man with silver hair who hangs out with a brunette. I heard they were here. If you can't point me towards them, I'll be out of your way. I heard they went looking for a bring-you-back-to-life machine. Something about a dead friend and toenails. A man with long nose hairs waved from the back of the room. No, actually, they're still here. He pointed at the couple who had passed out at their table. Iggy leaned in close to Nova's face and breathed heavily. He did this for 20 minutes before Nova woke up. Oh God, Iggy! She rubbed sleepy sand out of her eyes. What do you want? No time to explain. Come with me. Nova shook Ary's shoulder. Hey, get up, we're going. Ary mumbled in his sleep. But Lord Beangut, I'm a boy. Iggy lifted the drunk man onto his shoulder. No, let him sleep. We will need his strength. Besides, maybe he'll keep sleep-talking. I kinda want to know where this is going. Iggy carried Ary outside the bar, threw him into the back of his stolen cab, and the three made off for the headquarters of the Galactic Society of Friends. Meanwhile, at the Galactic Society of Friends, Zephos, the invader intern, sat on the golden stairs, twirling a strand of her blood-red hair, bemoaning her station. What am I going to do? I was the warrior queen of the mighty invaders of the planet Spartine. But even our great armies pale in comparison to the might of the Dark Lord Edith. Now I'm but a mere intern. Was it right of me to pledge our armies to this galactic society? I want to warn the other interns about Supreme Guy-in-Charge Yoayuki's growing madness. But what if the society puts me in charge next? I don't want Edith to explode my eyeballs. Oh, whatever shall I do? It was just after this monologue that Iggy-88's taxi pulled into the valet parking at the bottom of the steps. Nova went to tip the valet, as Iggy hoisted Ary out of the back of the car up onto his shoulder. Ary continued to mumble. What kind of uniform is this? Why does my tunic have frills? Zephos stood up, puffed out her bountiful chest, and shouted from the top of the golden stairs. Halt! What business do you have with the society? Iggy smiled and stretched the suspenders he was now wearing for some reason with his thumbs. We come bearing good news, pretty alien lady. Perhaps you could arrange for us to meet with the Supreme Guy-in-Charge? Zephos frowned sternly. Chancellor Yoayuki is indisposed and in no state to meet with drunks. You will tell your business to me. I promise you that while I am totally capable of getting drunk, and have done so many times while enjoying human drinks, and occasionally wine, I am not drunk at this moment. These two are, yeah, but they also happen to be the ones who put an end to the Dark Lord Edeth. So, you might want to throw them a parade or award them a medal or something. Zephos's already wide anime eyes widened even further. These two, you say? How could they have accomplished what armies across the universe could not? They just embarrassed him so badly that he lost the will to live. Then they cut his head off. But Edeth was a space god made only of stardust and despair made manifest. How do you cut the head off a god? No, you see, he was really just a bald guy who was too dumb to realize he wasn't actually an all-powerful space god. Look, can we get in and tell this whole story to someone slightly more important than, what, an escort/doorman? I am Zephos, intern of the invader peoples of Spartine. If what you say is true, then I must take you to the counselor at once, despite the fact that I'm supposed to be writing an apology letter. Okay, cool. I'm Iggy88. This is Ary.
I don't think it's gonna fit!
And that droopy-eyed bimbo is Nova. She waved, apparently not hearing Iggy's insult. Zephos escorted Iggy, Nova, and the passed-out Ary past the ball pit, directly through the laser tag arena, and up the golden escalator to Yoayuki's office. Zephos went first. She bust open the door and shouted triumphantly, "The Dark Lord Edeth is dead!" Yoayuki was lying on his back on top of his desk wearing nothing but a crusty sock over his squid member.
Get out of here! I'll have you all executed!
The Chancellor rolled off his desk, hid under it, and activated an alarm. The loud ringing finally woke Ary from his wine coma. I promise I won't tell anyone! Hey, Nova? Iggy? What's going on? God, my head is pounding. Zephos placed one hand on Ary's hip. Can you fight? Ary looked her right in the eyes and said, I can kill. Good enough, Zephos said as she handed him a space saber. Yoayuki stood up and struggled to put on his 8-legged pants. Can you guys step out for a moment? Everyone agreed that was for the best. When they were all out of the room, Yoayuki activated a laser security door, locking them out. Iggy shouted through the door. Hey man, I don't care what you were doing in there, 'cause trust me, this is not the first time I've seen a tentacled man fuck a spit-soaked sock. But did you hear the part about Edeth being dead? There was a sound of rushing footsteps running up the golden escalator, when 3 gruff-looking security guards appeared, brandishing laser rifles. The guards were all of mixed alien race. Zephos said quietly under her breath, Vin's men. One half-bobbity pirate pointed his rifle at our heroes and asked, Yoayuki, these guys give you shit? They are traitors to our Grand Alliance! Execute them at once! Without a word, Zephos activated her laser saber and charged the pirates. She sliced the half-bobbity's rifle in half with her saber and kicked him forcefully in his bulbous stomach. Unfortunately, Bobbities are an alien race whose bodies are made mostly of gelatin, so Zephos's kick bounced off the pirate, sending her flying onto her back. How do you make the light beam come out? Ary asked as he fumbled with his space saber. There should be a big fucking red button on it, Nova said, visibly annoyed. Ary's chiseled abs could only get him so far with Nova, and she was about reaching her limit. Ary found the button and pressed it, but when the laser shot out, it scared him so badly that he dropped his sword. This is the guy who beat Edeth? Zephos said, standing back up. Nova picked up the sword and handed it back to Ary. Here, try not to cut yourself. Just swing it like a normal sword, okay?
Enough!
Yoayuki shouted, having got 4 legs into his pants by now, but still not his squid dick.
Pirates! Shoot them!
The 2 other pirates opened fire. Nova closed her eyes and screamed. When the dust settled, everyone was still standing.
Where did you get those rifles?
Yoayuki asked, now having got 6 legs back in his pants, but still not his dick.
We found them next to the laser tag arena. Those are toys, you idiots!
What? Who plays laser tag with toy guns? Ary sensed his chance. With one two-handed sweep of his sword, he cut all 3 pirates in half. He then squealed with joy.
Ah! This blade is so sharp, can I keep it?
Xephos winked. Sure you can, big boy. Let's run for now. More pirates will come. Follow me. Xephos led Ary, Nova, and Iggy back towards the garage. She pulled out the keys to her shuttlecraft and pointed. Get in. Why don't we take my taxi? It's capable of warp jumping, Iggy said. I'm not risking running through that ball pit again. There's a certain ratscallion there who has it out for me. Our swords won't pierce his hide while he's high off the yellow sun. This is our best option. There's only one planet near enough for us to reach by shuttle, Xephos continued. The planet at the exact center of the universe, at the center of all things. The planet Zen. Hopefully we can hide there until Yoayuki calms down. And if he doesn't? Iggy asked. I don't know, smart guy. Why don't we sit here and discuss it while pirates with real guns are about to kill us all?
Fine, wow, hey, just asked a question.
Xephos got in the driver's seat, while Iggy, Nova, and Ary piled in the back. Ary and Nova were still drunk, so they started to make out. I think those two get along better when their lives are in danger. That can't be a sign of a healthy relationship, Iggy said flatly, while trying to squeeze into the corner of the shuttle as much as he could. Xephos watched hungrily in the rearview mirror for a moment, before the sound of laser fire interrupted her thoughts. Hold on tight. Next stop, Zen. The end.
Oh
shit. So, I'm not sure if they succeeded in passing the message of E-Death's demise yet. That's the dramatic tension of my story. A huge lack of communication.
Yeah. That's dramatic.
Dramatic. Tensiony.
One might say tense.
Tense. No, I think tense definitely needs more syllables.
Okay. That sounds right.
Yeah.
Long words are better. Yeah.
Smarter. So, you got a story for me with a title that you came up with?
Yes I do. I definitely came up with a title this time. It's called The Unveiling.
The Unveiling? That is tensiony.
You need more syllables on that word.
That is tense-tastic.
Yeah. No.
I'm not sure if that was...
Yeah.
I mean, it was more syllables.
Which means you're smarter, but it doesn't make it more clever. That's how that works, I think. Yeah.
Hit me with it. I'm drawn in by the title. I want to know what's being unveiled. Hopefully it's a sexy lady.
It's not.
Damn.
It's painting.
Damn.
As discussed in my previous episode.
You lost me. Alright, listeners. You guys tell me if his story was any good. I'm tuning out.
Okay. For the last several months, Ralph had been working tirelessly, doing mock-ups and designs for his murals. He was now nearly finished with the first one, and in typical form was pretty displeased with it. But he figured it was passable if he could just make the people he was portraying a little more sympathetic. This was easier said than done, given his subject matter. Middle management doesn't present a naturally easy case. Still, he soldiered on, even as Hobbleplox continuously harassed him about his schedules and time limits, and he was beginning to suspect that she had no real idea how little these murals would affect the public at large. But she was paying well, so who could really argue with that?
True.
Yeah. Greg, on the other hand, had been hugely helpful, bringing supplies and advice, small snacks. Meanwhile, his girlfriend, also called Hobbleplock, had stayed away, fearing further retribution. This alone had put Ralph somewhat on edge. He was thinking a vacation was in order after the murals were finished. Somewhere far away, where no one knew anything of the struggles of management, and where there weren't quite so many clones confusing everything. Another several months later, Ralph had finally finished the second mural. Hobbleplox was pretty pleased with the final results. She thought this would bring the world to its knees at the unveiling.
Oh, that's just like the title.
Exactly the same. Can't imagine where I came up with that title.
Some shit's going down there. I'm feeling all kinds of tensiony ass tensicity.
It's possible. Let's see, where was I? Okay. And finally, she would be able to find some personal advancement within society. So, she had organized a huge unveiling ceremony. All of the managers gave their workers a day off to attend the unveiling. Oh man, I used that word way too many times.
It's the title. It's the title.
That's
I get
true.
it. It's making me feel that tense-tastic feeling that I've forgotten the adjective form of.
Yeah.
Or the noun.
Greg had given personal invitations to all of the Hobbleploxes, including the Queen. Ralph was pestering her about payments and being a general killjoy, but in spite of that, Hobbleplox was excited. This was, after all, to be her moment. She'd just finished working out her 12-step plan to overthrow the Queen.
Oh, God.
And damn, was it clever.
I want to know.
It involved theft, hostage-taking, minor acts of terrorism, cleverly disguised as accidents, and shrubberies. Lots of shrubberies.
It's like...
She was stoked.
It's like Monty Python and the Holy Grail meets 9/11.
Oh, shit, yeah. Yep. Sure is.
She planned that. That's... That should have been the title of your story. Monty Python's 9/11.
No.
No.
It really shouldn't have been. Finally, the day had come for the unveiling. And Greg was nervous. He kept waiting for the throngs to show up. So far, it was Greg's workers and some of Ralph's friends were all of the crowd. This wasn't good. Hobbleplox was thankfully too busy preparing her speech, and so he pumped fake crowd noise into her dressing room so she didn't get suspicious. In his panic, Greg set about trying to lure in a larger audience. He'd started posting blatant lies on social media, implying that the Queen would be attending, though in fact she had sent him a mocking reply to his invitation. Calling into question the sense of wasting paint on such a foolish concept. As a side note, she had considered using her hive mind abilities to make no one show up at all, but she was worried that their friends would show up anyways and reveal the major flaw in her control over the populace. That being, the further from the original clone one gets, the less effective the hive mind was on the individual. Bonds such as friendship, severe animosity, or disapproval could sever the command.
What? I feel like that was some really important exposition. Too bad I was tuning it out, because there's no naked ladies.
How do you know she wasn't?
Oh.
Yeah, use your goddamn imagination.
Well, now I'm going to be just terribly distracted.
She looks just like your mom, by the way.
Is that...
I really hope Laura doesn't watch these.
I'm pretty sure she doesn't.
I did not write that she looks just like your mother.
I mean, if you did, then it would have meant like the listener's mother left it to their imagination. But
No.
now if you want to know what mine looks like, imagine like Dr. Robotnik except a woman.
Oh, that is a perfect description. Oh, shit. But, back to Greg. He flailed about trying to entice people with offers of food, media coverage, other celebrity guests, and slowly a reasonable crowd began to filter in. As it happened, many of the celebrities he claimed would be in attendance noticed that people were commenting on said attendance, and therefore showed up so they wouldn't disappoint the fans.
Oh, that worked.
Caterers showed up to show off their food-making prowess and belittle their competition, and then the media arrived to cover what they assumed would become a riot, because a little bloodshed is always good for the ratings.
Uh-huh.
And so, somewhat miraculously, Greg had put together a pretty decent crowd that Hobbleplox could get good and disappointed with, but not enough so that violence would ensue on her part. Finally, it was time for the pre-unveiling speeches. First up was Greg with the introductions, then Ralph with the artistic discussions, and finally Hobbleplox would speak and likely try to turn the crowd into a murderous mob that the media was hoping for. Good morning, everyone. I'm Greg. Today, we will have a couple of brief speeches before unveiling the murals. First, I just wanted to say thank you for coming out. Not like that. And I hope you enjoy the festivities.
I'm sure everyone in the audience was confused.
Definitely didn't write that. I just decided to say it. Now, on to what you probably wanted to hear. Please, welcome to the stage, the artist behind these beautiful murals, Ralph. A few people craned their necks to try and see around where the murals would be unveiled, but Greg ignored them, as you would. Welcome, the crowd roared, rather than the expected lackluster clapping. Oh, well, hey there, thanks. Ralph needed a second to process the unexpected greeting. Thanks, Greg, for the lovely introduction. A round of raucous cheering. So I was pitched this project by Greg and the management Hobbleplox. It seemed like a great cause. Class structure in our society has been holding back too many for too long. He went on this way for some time, simultaneously calling support to this cause, vague self-deprecation, and distinct approval of Greg and his efforts. Finished, and as Greg came back on stage, the crowd went nuts. It became clear that they fucking love Greg.
Wow.
Why, thank you. And thanks again for coming out. Not like that. Up next, please welcome the head of my cast, Hobbleplox. As he walked off the stage, the crowd became visibly disappointed. And as she walked on stage to the ensuing welcome was less enthusiastic than before. Thank you, she said, dripping with sarcasm. She was not impressed with the attention they were piling onto Greg, after all. She then launched into a tirade about, for a moment or two, how lovely the paintings were, and then onto how much she wanted to see her class, and more importantly, herself, gain equality. How terrible it was living at the bottom, and generally, she was trying to elicit sympathy, but the crowd just seemed to want to know where Greg had gone, and what he thought about it all. While she found this aggravating, it didn't stop her. She went on for about an hour without a break, barely even stopped to breathe. When finally she wrapped up her speech, Greg ran in front of the stage and started clapping. The increasingly unruly throng followed suit. He then ran back around, up onto the stage, to make some closing remarks. Thank you all for coming out today. Feel free to come forward and check out the mural up close. He was getting a bit uneasy with the apparent enthusiasm for himself. He couldn't figure out why they loved him so much. In truth, it was because he had somehow managed to tap into the hive mind and force his desires onto the people in attendance. The more he did so, the more aggravated the people would become when they noticed it. As a rule, people anywhere don't like being told what to do, but when they don't have the will not to do so, they really start to get pissed. There were rumblings from the crowd now. They sadly didn't really give a damn about the paintings. Everyone was more interested in whether Greg liked them or not, and this made them even more angry.
Yeah. I like that.
I thought so.
That's good.
Hobbleplox saw her moment as the fervor of the crowd grew past the point of reason. She went back up to the mic and shouted, "Riot!" And that was all it took. The whole crowd erupted, violence overwhelmed the streets, and so Greg, Ralph, and Hobbleplox made a swift getaway. Crowds did what rowdy crowds do. There aren't cars as we know them on Hadroxia, and yet somehow there were cars upturned,
thank God.
Trash cans set on fire, bricks met windows to their usual catastrophic manner. Eventually some police showed up, didn't like the look of things, and discreetly joined in. The riots went on a couple of days before people got bored and wandered off. Food vendors that had popped up to feed the rioters faded back to find the next hungry gathering. A few stayed to feed whoever came back, in personal shame about the violence caused to try and tidy up a bit.
Oh.
The fires put themselves out when they felt they had accomplished a hard day's work. And while all this was happening, Hobbleplox was busy enacting her next step, while Greg worked on an escape plan, and Ralph busied himself trying to turn the riot zone into a nature preserve, complete with a memorial plaque to all those who had died of overexertion or excitement in the riots. Hobbleplox's next step was to be a grand gesture. She knew this would cement her legacy as the greatest of the Hobbleplox, and the common folk would come to worship her for setting them free to destroy whatever they saw that looked particularly destructible. She is, however, fundamentally impatient, so she decided to travel forward in time a few months, so her legend could grow along with the people's admiration. In a few months would be more than enough for the police to lose interest.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Traveling forward in time. In a sci-fi future world, you're traveling even more into the future.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though. Well done.
It's noticeably difficult for police on a world full of clones, as you can only narrow the suspect list down to a large portion of the population. So instead, the cops spend their time polishing their shoes, being ready in case of inspection. Meanwhile, Greg had found an escape route from the planet before the riot had caught up to him. He had taken a shuttlecraft to a local trader's moon, hopped on the Intergalactic Transit Authority train that went the furthest away from his home planet. Within a couple of years, he was happily working as a lumberjack on a forest moon that he was pretty sure would never see any trouble, ever.
Just like Dexter.
Ralph, meanwhile, had contacted the Paragon Company to get their assistance building his park.
Yay, I love them.
If it took too long to complete, surely someone would pave over it and build a pizza shop that would inevitably decline in quality until it became a gas station somehow. Paragon would be arriving shortly. The end. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun!
Alright. Yeah.
Paragon. My boys, who I assume look like dwarves.
I don't know.
I told you before that I think
so.
all of your characters, whenever I hear them, I assume they look like dwarves.
Oh, because of their names?
Yeah, I guess so. They seem like they're gonna be, like, short, just cartoonishly chubby little alien guys.
I could see that. I do like the crazy names.
And I do like your crazy story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's going to be continued even more.
Yeah, 3 in a row.
The tale of the Hobbleploxes and their plight of social equality.
She's not going to feature in the next one all that much, but Ralph. The next one's about Ralph, mostly.
Oh, but I noticed Hobbleplox is an uncountable noun.
Yes.
I'm sorry, not the Hobbleploxes, the Hobbleplox.
Yeah, it's I definitely wasn't thinking about pluralizing it when I came up with that name. Even though with that story it needed to be pluralized.
The Hobbleploxy. Like cacti.
Yeah, maybe. I've just been going Hobbleploxes.
Or eggplanti.
I don't think that's how that one works.
Oh, shit.
I think that one's just your standard S.
Anyway, writing prompts.
Yeah.
And so for next week, the way that our writing prompts work, we each come up with a prompt, we don't tell each other, and then we reveal them at the same time. So my prompt for next time is invasions.
Yep, and mine was teleporters.
Okay, teleporter.
Yeah.
Okay. So then.
You can use the plural as well if you would like.
Well, yeah, but the distinction here
being between teleport as opposed
and
to
not
teleporter. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to affect my story a little bit. Although I'm sure it's just going to be an invading army teleports in.
Just the whole story about the logistics of getting an entire army onto one teleporter.
Anyway, so that's it. Our prompts for next time are invasions and teleporters.
Yeah.
Thank you guys very much for listening. Yes. And thank you, Jared, for telling me a story.
Yeah, thank you for the same.
All right.
Go to bed now.
Yeah, you can. I'm gonna...
fucking wired on caffeine because I have to be, otherwise I don't talk at all during these things.
That's good. Thank you very much for that, then. That makes my job easier. Because if I don't, then I have to just cut out, like, when you talk, a big, like, long space between every single word in the sentence. And I gotta tighten it up.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll happen.
Thank you guys very much. Check us out on Twitter. Listen to us for the newest episodes on SoundCloud. And then if you want to go back and find out why Iggy88 uses weird accents, then go back and check out our old episodes on YouTube. Leave a comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Leave us jazz hands in the comments.
Oh.